really talk about. Today, we've got a friend that I've recently met at a BNI meeting that I was invited to, who was very interested in what we had going on here, and sat down and had a coffee with Jordan. Just what was it, last week, Jordan?
Yep.
And then we hit it off pretty good. Hit it off really good. So he's Jordan's going to be a guy that I'm going to have way more than one coffee with and probably hang out with. So
Absolutely.
I can see that happening
Same
for
here.
sure.
Yep.
Lots in common. I love your attitude. I loved everything that you brought to the table at that BNI meeting. So it's super cool to have you join us, Jordan. Really appreciate you coming on. So we'll start off the kind of the same way we all start off on Robbie. I'm gonna ask you how you're doing today. Be real.
I'm doing I'm I'm doing well today. It's a busy week. That's the story of my life, but busy week. Got some good news. New job coming up. Well, not a new job. Well, it is a new job.
It's a promotion.
Uh, Promotion. Be doing some
Congratulations.
different.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
huge.
Be doing some different stuff for the company I work for. So I'm excited about it. New
Proud of you,
little
man.
journey. Thank you.
Proud of you.
Appreciate that.
You've worked your tail off. So I'm glad they saw that and saw that you've earned it, and just good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's
Working
work
for
my
it
tail off,
always
like you
pays
said, a
off.
lot of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears there. Lots of garbage juice.
I wasn't even going to get into the details.
But
The
we'll just leave
truckers,
it at that. We don't
the
need to go
trucker
any
side,
deeper.
the trucker side of things. Anyways, Jordan, how are you today?
Man, I am doing great, right? Got to be doing great. Got to figure out, like, kind of like Robbie, man. I'm super busy. Today was cramming it in. I'm heading out to Denver first thing in the morning tomorrow, and trying to get the week settled a day early. And sometimes that can be a little tough, but got it taken care of and was able to make it here. Super happy about that. Still kept my promises to myself. Was able to hit the gym and do everything that I was supposed to do today.
Are you saying that you kept your promises to yourself?
Yeah, I did.
I'm not going to use that at all to segue into the topic because I'm still going to say, how am I today? Or Robbie, I can hand that to you. You want me to hand that to you? I'll hand that to you.
Steve, how are you today?
Oh,
For
Robbie,
reals.
thanks for asking. I'm doing excellent. I also have some news. I finally got an internship. I've been working my butt off trying to contacts and send resumes out, and this one landed in my lap because of a recommendation from a professor of mine, and it worked out great. Sat down with the interview, and I start on Monday. So I have the full-time internship I've been dreaming of finding, and I'm super stoked to get started full time on Monday and get my feet wet and start learning. And steep learning curve ahead of me, and I'm really excited. Really excited.
It's pretty
I have to
awesome.
say, yeah, Steve has been up and down through this whole internship thing. Being told he has one, taken away, some other some other hopes. Then, man, I'm so proud of you for keeping your head up. Uh, there's a lot of, you know, doom and gloom in the world, but somehow you managed to keep your head up through all this, and you landed one.
Yeah.
And the reason you landed one is because you kept your head up. You could have tucked your tail and ran away, and poor me, I didn't do it. I don't get it. I'm not worthy, whatever. But no, you stuck it through, and here you are.
Yeah, the way I
Proud of you.
saw it was when that fell through, I'm like, okay, what's the lesson? Because the lesson isn't stop trying. The lesson is there's something in there. Like that one wasn't meant for me. I was meant to learn something from it. And I've spent some time thinking about what that lesson might be. And I think what happened like nothing's guaranteed in life, and I lollygagged my way through that guarantee. And so I didn't
Mhm.
bother networking. I didn't bother making more connections. I didn't bother putting myself out there. And I saw something today by Gary Vee, and it was all about um, using your LinkedIn profile and using those sorts of things to keep you connected, because nothing is guaranteed, and that job might go away, and things might happen in your life. But if nobody knows about you and nobody knows who you are, no one knows what you do, you start at ground zero. I started at ground zero all over again, other than very few connections that I had made. So um, one of the things that is on my to-do list is to continue to network and continue to meet people, and like Jordan, like going to that BNI meeting, and meeting professionals and meeting people where I literally feel like the dumbest person in the room, because that means I have so much to learn. And it's seriously, it's all try, show up and try, show up and try, and show up and try. And eventually, right when I wasn't looking, it showed it showed up for me. And that's just cool. Putting the effort in, and it comes in somewhere else. Um, it's all about the people you meet. Jordan's one of those guys.
That really
So
stood out to me when you said, you know, if you're not learning from somebody, I mean, if you're in a room full of people and you're not learning anything, you're in the wrong room.
yep.
You should always surround yourself with people that you're learning from or that are pushing you to an elevated level. And I strongly believe that. I mean, they always say, like, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And that couldn't be more true.
Right.
I'm telling you, if you have goals like what you're doing right now is you're going into your internship, you want to be what they are.
Yep.
So you're putting yourself in that room to succeed and be that person, right? And you're always going to learn from that. And just like meeting you, even when we sat down and had coffee, I was learning from you. You were learning from me. Like there's things to always learn, and I think that's huge. And that networking goes so far, so far. I love that you're like just the conversation we had. I love the fact that obviously you got this internship because of the fact of how much work you were willing to put in right away. You said, oh, well, this it might be the end of this lead, but this isn't the end of what I'm doing. You know what I mean? You opened that path. Nobody opened that path for you. It wasn't handed to you, which is what's huge. Is because you had to work for it. You know what I mean? Kind of like you said, you got caught up and just kind of riding a wave. But
Mm-hmm.
whenever that wave runs out, and that's the thing about it. And just as men, we get caught up in that wave, right? Just like everybody. I mean, we can get caught up and living our lifestyle and just being comfortable. Comfortability is my worst enemy.
I
I
definitely
was
got
Mhm.
comfortable.
because I know that the minute I get comfortable is the minute I stop learning.
And I definitely got comfortable, and I got complacent, and it caused me to not put any effort into that part of my life. And I actually consider myself extremely lucky for Robbie being willing to start this podcast, because if it wasn't for this podcast, I wouldn't have made the connection with the professor that believed in me enough to recommend me for this internship to begin with. So if it wasn't for the connections and the effort that's gone into this, I wouldn't have this opportunity. So I guess what it comes down to is you never know where or who it's going to come from.
Yep.
You just never do. And so treating people with respect and having integrity and showing up in your life for you and for others goes an extremely long way. It just takes a while for it to pay off. And I'm going to segue that right into what Jordan and I were sitting down and talking about, that we were going to talk about on this podcast, is keeping promises to ourselves. And Jordan had a passion for this. This was the one thing. Said if, when we were sitting down having a coffee, it's like, what's one thing that if you were wanted to talk about, what would it be? And that's what you said. Keeping promises to yourself.
Man.
So what does that mean to you?
What does that mean to me? Well,
Yeah.
you know, in today's society, we get, and this is just common and really quick, you know, I own a water purification company here in Colorado.
You are welcome.
That's kind of what I do, right? A little background really quick. You know, I work out every day. I do all my stuff, right? But what I've come to find, and myself in the past included, is that as men, we live in a society where we're always promising everybody else that we're going to do something for them. Oh, I promise I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You're always taking care of everybody else. But here's the thing is that we rarely keep a promise to ourselves. So we rarely make a goal and then work to chip to eat at it and get to that goal and constantly push ourselves past that goal. Now, it's huge because and one of the examples I use is like, you know, I tell myself, hey, you know, I'm going to be conscious about what I eat because I want to be healthy, right? I want to be the best person. Essentially, by keeping those promises to myself, I'm going to be the best person I can for my family, for everybody else. So I can make promises to everybody else, but if I spread myself so thin that I don't have time to fix my mental health, I don't have time to release myself, then I can't be that best person. So I may be able to keep promises, but am I performing at the highest level? And here's the thing is it's not hard to keep it. Okay, let me take that back. It's really hard to keep promises to yourself until you consistently do it, right? Growth comes, okay, let me think how growth comes from consistently compounding wins, right? It doesn't matter how big the win is. That's why they say you wake up and first thing in the morning, first thing you do is make your bed. Why? Because you've already won something for the day, right?
Yep.
And so like for me, like there's so many guys out there like, you know, oh, I'm going to start going to the gym. Well, here's the thing, but then they're like, well, you know, it's not going to work or I don't have time for it. And it's not about having time. It's about making time. You may lose 1 hour of sleep a day because you're getting up an hour early to go, right? Maybe you have to get up an hour early and be there at 5 o'clock in the morning or however early your hour is. But here's the thing is that 1 hour, it's going to suck at first, right? Because you're losing a little bit of sleep. You're going to be tired. But if you consistently do it, say you start at 3 days a week, 4 days a week, you consistently do it, you set the alarm and you discipline yourself to do it, what's going to happen is how many years are you going to add to your life? How much healthier are you going to be? You know, I mean, you're taking care of your heart, you're taking care of your body. And that's the big thing for me is that we don't make time for ourselves to keep those promises for ourselves. And it's not about having the time, it's about making the time.
This is something I struggle with. I like to spread myself thin, especially now that I have my daughter living with me. When I was, you know, living on my own and my daughter would come visit, I could, you know, do all that, be disciplined. It was really easy for me to get up and get my runs in, eat well, all that stuff. Add an unknown into my life that I'm still learning how to deal with, and we're learning together, building this relationship. I will give up anything for her that takes away from me. And I've talked to Steve about this quite a bit. It's something I really struggle with because I'm a people pleaser at heart. But the person that I hurt the most is myself. And for me, it's just been this rebuilding phase on this new journey is to not to be so hard on myself, but also to make the promises to myself obtainable. Little small chunks at a time, kind of like you were talking about.
That is huge. They have to be obtainable. Everybody likes to set the bar so high. Like I'm going to get here, but you have no way to get there, right? So like so many, that speaks so much truth because everybody puts that bar so high, they don't give themselves the little steps to get there. And I think that that's amazing.
But this is where it gets a little rough because I'm, 100%. It's like, I want to just get to the top, right? I think a lot of people do just want to skip all those steps and get to the top, right? I don't know why. I know for myself, it's that achievement, like, oh, I'm here. sometimes I don't want to put in that hard work because I've grinded that before and done all that. And I know what that hard work's going to be like. So I just do weird stuff then. But now I've just been taking these little small chunks. And like if I do this today, that's cool. I can't be so strict on myself anymore as I've been in the past as I get older. But like you were saying, I started making my bed years ago, and that was a win. And I had this mentor that was just like, make a task list. And he's like, I don't care if there's one thing on that task list. That's a win for the day. He's like, this week it'll be 1, next week it'll be 2, next week it'll be 3, whatever it is, right? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And I started doing that, and the self-worth, the feeling good about yourself, knowing I can complete that or accomplish whatever it may set that I put on that task list was huge. And a lot of times I'll go throughout my daily life and I'll forget about that task list. It's like, bring it back. Like, why am I not doing this? So I ride this wave, and as you were talking about earlier, when the wave's low, the grind's hard and the struggle's deep. When the wave's high, I'm living life. But that's when I get complacent, when I'm riding that wave and everything feels so good. I got to bring myself back in. And that's part of this journey, is where Steve was talking about, I had this internship. They just gave it to me, but then it got taken away from me and I thought I had it. That's what I love about this growth, is reminding myself every day that I have to continue to work hard. It's not given to me.
Absolutely, man. You never stop whenever you've reached something, and that's the thing. And I've done that so many times in my past. Like you said, ride the wave. When things get good, we totally stop doing all the things. It's like we forget how we got there, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
one of my favorite things is, they say everybody's jealous of what you got, but nobody is jealous of what it took to get there. So, everybody wants to ride that wave,
Mm-hmm.
and then nobody envies what it took you to ride that wave. But the thing about it is, if you put down what it took you to ride that wave and you keep putting it down, that wave will never end, right? I mean, obviously,
Mhm.
you'll have backups, you'll have different things, but you'll always be more prepared. I'm not saying there won't be downfalls in life, but you'll be more prepared. You'll always have the arsenal, like Steve said. He got complacent, and then he went out and started networking. He used this. This podcast worked out amazing for him, obviously, and then but as he said, he's still going to be out networking. He's still going to grow his arsenal. Whenever you network, you meet new people. It's an arsenal of people that you've met. And since I've started my business, just 100% in the last 2 years, the amount of people that I have met networking, like networking has been my biggest goal, meeting new people. I can't tell you the amount of people that I've met that I could call anytime and would be here. And I've never had that in my life, right? I've always had like those certain people I could call, and now there's like there's different sources of people that that'll do things like to help me if I needed it. Not that I would ever use it, but there's people that and it goes both ways though. You know what I mean? These people know what kind of person I am, the integrity I hold, the character I hold, and I hold that throughout, not only by keeping promises to them, but one of the huge things you said, Robbie, that stuck out to me more than anything was your self-worth, the self-worth that you felt. you know um, Whenever we keep promises to ourselves, we believe when we get down on ourselves is like, what do you have to be grateful for? Do you realize what we have to be grateful for? I mean, we all have so much to be grateful for. And what I do sometimes, if I'm having a bad day, I've got a whiteboard right there in my kitchen, and
Mm-hmm.
I will write down the things that happened that were good in the last 3 days. You know what I mean? That way I can look at it and remind myself, okay, this happened. Okay, I'm totally fine, right?
It's gonna
Um,
be all right.
but sometimes you just gotta like, sometimes I gotta like take those thoughts, because we all get intrusive thoughts. We get thoughts that tell us that we can't do this, or that we won't be there, or we won't do this. And nothing better than the fact or fiction. Take that thought. Is it fact or is it fiction? The only thing stopping us is ourselves, right? So we have unlimited potential. And the only thing that stops us is us believing that we can't do it, or believing that we can't find the steps to do it. And it's all baby steps. It really is, man. The self-worth is all baby steps. And discipline is key. Discipline, like you said, being hard on yourselves. We're our own worst critics. You're probably doing amazing and a million good things. Your daughter is probably super proud and loves you to death. And you're probably the best person that you can be for her. But little things will pop up and you'll feel like complete misery. I got a 4-year-old myself. I know how it feels, but then you stop and you think about it. I'm like, well, okay, like in the grand scheme of things, like, no, we're doing really good. You know what I mean? Everything's going really good for my kid. I am doing the right things. So I think it's huge to recognize not only what other people are doing, but recognizing what you're doing as a man. Not always like, because we're our own worst critics, we look at everything that's negative that we do and we critique ourselves, and then we hold those thoughts in our head days, weeks, and we live upon those and trying to make up for those, when really there's not making up to do. What you need to do is we need to look back and see, what are we doing right, and let's continue to keep that positive, right? Because our energy feeds off to our family, to our friends. How we carry ourselves as men is so important. Even if you were saying like you're head of the household, right? As a man, it's your job to carry the energy and realize, everybody around you is going to follow the energy that you have. And it's so cool to see whenever people fall in love with themselves and realize all the good things that they're doing, and they stop focusing on the negative, you become a magnet for everybody around you, and you become a positive magnet. And then what you're doing reflects off to other people, and you're changing lives without even knowing it.
Yeah.
And that aspect just blows me away. Whenever I see it, it's just amazing to see other people react in the same way because they see it coming off of you. And it's just a cool thing.
It's a positive energy that gives.
Correct.
And it all starts with keeping that promise to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I can go back to, and I'm listening to you guys talk, and it makes me wonder about all the guys out there that aren't feeling good about themselves, that have low self-worth, that don't really feel like they have anybody to talk to, or don't have anybody to talk to. And I don't even mean this to be insensitive, but how many promises to yourself are you keeping? Because that's a really valid question to ask yourself and to answer. The once you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. So if I was to look at my life and go, I'm not keeping any of my promises to myself, that's very high evidence of I'm going to have to start doing that regardless of how hard that is. Because that's where you start finding your self-worth. That's where you start finding your self-love. And I was one of those guys when I heard you need to start loving yourself. I rolled my eyes like, you're so full of shit. Wrong. I'm drinking that Kool-Aid now. Like you literally do need to start loving yourself. And that, like, it sounds ridiculous, but making your bed is part of doing that. It is that little win. It's the little, I started doing that too. Putting the stuff away when you intend on, when you're done with the thing, instead of leaving it. It's the small promises. It's the small things. It's those little wins that do stack up. It takes time. It takes time to recognize the result, to feel the result of it. And the delayed gratification part of that. And who can I ask to help me be accountable to the thing that I'm going to start promising to myself? At the beginning, if I had people and used some people to help keep me accountable and talk about it, say it out loud, write it on a whiteboard. See, I've got 2 of them too.
Yep.
Right? Like that. If I write that stuff down, it's not something I get to forget anymore. It's not something that be like, oh no, forgot that one today. I'll get to it tomorrow, and then I keep pushing it off because it's uncomfortable. And I mean, I was guilty of that a lot, and I still do it today. I procrastinate. I'll fuck around on my phone, and I'll piss time away, and then I'll get pissed off at myself for, I could have used that half hour to read a book. Like, it's not about being perfect. It's about recognizing what needs to change and when it needs to change, and then putting the effort into.
And
And
slowly
that's,
change.
yeah, it's the
Slowly,
effort though.
one step
It's,
at a time.
yeah, it's the effort. It's the little baby steps. It's the going out and showing. That's why I've said this, and Robbie's heard me say this. Like, ever since I moved here, one of my models was show up and try. That was the promise for me. As
Just
long
like
as
the
I,
CrossFit,
what's that?
just like the CrossFit you talked about.
Just like the CrossFit. As long as I shown up, as long as I, it's like putting your shoes on just to get out the door,
Mm.
right? You show up, and then once you're there, it's a hell of a lot easier to put in the effort than it is if you hadn't left the house yet.
Oh, absolutely. Just like going to the gym when I first started going, I hated it. I didn't want to go. Well, I tell you what, that first, I might have been miserable going in, but
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I'm done, I feel accomplished. I feel full of myself, like just believing in myself, right? Okay, I did it. And then I feel good. And you ride that throughout the day. It's a great way to start the day. I mean, absolutely amazing way to start the day. And, Robbie, just Steve, sorry, just like you were saying there, like what you're saying just resonates back to me. I know that you and I talked about it more, but I'm I'm doing good right now, and I have all my stuff together. But I've been, I've been in some dark spots in my life too. So I had, a, I've had quite a few times that I didn't believe in myself. I thought that I just didn't belong. I felt that I wasn't good enough, and multiple times, multiple stages, didn't think I was going to ever be anything. Um, and all of that rolled into one. Didn't have anything. Was I isolated myself into like an island, so to say, right? I didn't want help from anybody, and I was one of those guys, like you say, have this, get held accountable, right? If I had somebody to hold me accountable, I was one of those guys that would not accept anybody holding me accountable. So I was in a complete dark spot. Um, but I hated I don't want to say hate because I think hate's a very powerful word.
It's a powerful word, yeah.
But I did not believe in myself, right? Completely did not believe in myself. And, everybody's got their own ways. I believe in God, and I've got my religion and stuff. You know what I mean? I got my faith that pulls me through. But it was baby steps to believe in myself, doing little things, and it did not come easy. But once I caught traction of doing it by myself, going to the and I keep going back to going to the gym, but that's one of them that brought me out. So going to the gym every day, boom, boom, boom. Then getting more connected and really belief in myself, and trusting myself allowed me to see my own potential that I could not see. And everybody's got it. And I think that there's so many men out there that are like, oh, well, this is where I'm at, and I don't know where to start. So I think that that's a huge thing, is like this keeping promises to yourself isn't just for, somebody who, has got everything together, just needs to keep one promise to themselves. This is for everybody, man. And this goes all the way down to somebody who feels like that they're just completely without. I encourage everybody, like, make yourself a promise and keep it to yourself. Quit making promises to everybody else if you're not going to keep the ones to yourself. Because how is anybody else going to trust you if you don't trust yourself?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to believe what you're saying to somebody else? How are you going to say it with conviction? Like, oh, I will make sure that this, and this happens. You can say it, but then half the times, if you're not doing what you're doing for yourself, you're definitely not going to be able to fully fulfill that. And you're not going to believe yourself when you say it. As men, we have to have that confidence in ourselves.
What it comes down to is like, if you can't keep the promise to yourself, how can you expect others to believe that you will keep the promise to them?
100%.
Right? If we can't hold ourselves to the same expectation that we hold ourselves to everyone else, which normally, and I'll say that, it's kind of unhealthy, normally is what we do. We give it all away before we start with, if I pour a little bit into my own cup first, or somewhere along the lines, then I'll have enough to water the lawn. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you just end up in drought everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have to do, and everybody's thing's different, right? What clears your head? What allows you to pull in your sanity and ground yourself? Like we have to be grounded, not just as men, but as human beings. Everybody needs to have that time that they ground themselves and they reset. And whatever that is for you, you need to make it a priority. And like you said, like we don't put ourselves first. Like the number one, like I completely understand and I completely fully believe in that you give everything for your family, right? I would give my life for my family without even thinking about it right now. I would give anything that I have for my family without thinking about it to make sure that they survive. But a lot of times that's not, like 99% of the time, that's not what's being asked of you. We can say those things, but that's not what's being asked of us. We don't have to give our life right now. Like, I mean, there is certain circumstances where things happen. You have to give up this, you have to give up that. But 99% of the time, that is not the circumstance. So the reality of it is that we're living in our own head, and we need to change. We need a paradigm shift. That's what I believe it's called. So we need to change the way that our perspective is looking at things. So our perspective may be caught in that, I would give everything for them. You know what I mean? I'm going to give everything for them. I'm going to give everything for them. But here's the thing is they're not asking you to give everything. They're asking you to do the simple things that you're already doing. So filling your cup is one of those things that you need to do as well. You need to pour time into yourself so that you can be better for them, because maybe you giving everything just to your family, but not giving that hour to yourself a day is affecting what you're giving to your family. What you're giving to your family could be maybe in abundance if you were grounded. And I'm talking about emotionally, physically, caring, and all of those things that go there. If you're not grounded, what kind of emotional support are you giving? Are you giving it from a weak perspective, or are you giving it from a strong perspective? And are you setting a good example? Like one of the huge things, we got to set that example with our families too.
Something you said that I'm still holding on to was loving myself. That's really hard for men. We've been programmed not to love ourselves, to give our love somewhere else. And then you were talking about trust yourself. So going into loving myself is also trusting myself. And you were talking about the perception of what you think your family needs to what they actually need, and getting stuck in your own head. We're think we're thinking sometimes in our own head that this is what they want. We don't know what they want because we don't ask them. We don't have that conversation. Sometimes they won't tell us what they want because that's a uncomfortable conversation. It could, get into a fight or some weird other stuff to happen. But I find it very interesting that we will dump our cup out everywhere without, you were talking about filling it up for ourselves first. And my question always is, society has played a lot into this, throughout the time, men going to war at a young age for our freedom, all that other stuff. Here we are now. Where would you suggest a man goes to start, first learning how to love himself, then how to start building that trust within himself, then changing that paradigm? Because I think those are three very important things that a lot of men struggle with. I struggled with that for years, and it's still something that I catch myself every single day. Like, whoa, why are you thinking that way?
Absolutely, man. And I'll tell you right out the gate, whenever I didn't believe in myself, the first thing, obviously, I believe that, it's some kind of exercise, whether it be the gym or whatever you do. I think that you need to make time. They say, exercise is 40 times more efficient than an antidepressant, than a med. So as far as coming out of depression, you know, and for me, I think that some sort of exercise for yourself, something to keep you healthy is one of them. But the other thing is like the loving yourself is so big, so big. Because if you don't love yourself, you can't radiate that energy to anybody, right? Because you're already in the depths of yourself. And one of the things that I think that somebody can do to start loving themselves is first is if you're exercising, you're going to feel better. But number two, you know, look in the mirror and, one thing that I always go back on and that I always look at is we all live, and one of the reasons we don't love ourselves is because we live out of mistakes, right? So we're living out of the mistakes that we had in the past. And I will tell you firsthand, I have had my share of mistakes that are great mistakes, then that I just kept making when I was in that time zone of my life that was just unbelievably miserable. But the thing about it is whenever you can stop and compartmentalize it and you stop and you think about it like, okay, the cool thing about having these mistakes is it makes you prepared for what's coming, right? So you've been through things that maybe other people haven't been, that you can help other people with. But it's also learning to love yourself is not looking at those mistakes and being like, oh, this is who I am, this is who I am, this is who I am, because that was yesterday. That's not who you are. So who you are is decided on who you want to be today and in the future. So if you were to stop right now and be like, oh, all these things that happened in my past, think of those things as arsenal for you to move forward and not have to make those mistakes again. And that's when I truly started to love myself, was when I realized that that person, those mistakes that I made, and all those things that were really pulling me down, and I kept living out of regret and fear. Once I realized that I didn't have to live out of regret and fear, because let's be honest, we're only here for a short period of time. And you know what? What other people think should not dictate how we feel about ourselves. There's a million people out there. If somebody doesn't like you, somebody's got something to say about you. If you can shut out all of the outside noise and start to really find yourself and really figure out who you are and who you want to be and work towards it. And I think it's huge what you said about society. I mean, society makes us this way. I mean, everybody lives off of other people's opinions versus who they really are. Half the world has a mask on that says all these things on it of who they people think they are and who they are, who they want to be. But if you were to flip that mask around and say, who are you really? None of those things would match your characteristics of who you want to be and who you feel as inside. And I encourage everybody to just be themselves and push away that outside. And one of the huge things that I used to do is I would used to stand in a mirror every morning, sometimes in the middle of the day, when I was having those intrusive thoughts that were pulling me back about who I was and those insecurities. And I look at myself, and it's weird to say it. You look at yourself and you go, I love you. You are enough. You're good enough. These are the things that you're good at. Who cares about these other things? You can do all of this, and with that, you can, you know, and look at the people who depend on you, love you. This person loves you. This person depends on you. Your daughter, right? So if you look in the mirror and you go, okay, she loves me for this, this, and this. So what does all that other stuff matter? She doesn't care about the past. She cares about who you are and who you're going to be in the future and who you're going to continue to be. And who you probably already are being is the only person that she cares about you being. And if that's what means the most to you and means the most to all of us, that we pour our cup out for all these people, if who we are and who we are as a person and how we treat them is what means the most to them, then all that stuff that we hold on to and we live out of is really just us living out of it in ourselves. It's not because of anybody else. And so I think that dropping the past, knowing it's there, and living out of respect for it, as in living out of not trying not to make those continuous mistakes, but taking the little wins that say, okay, maybe I shouldn't, maybe I shouldn't eat that cheeseburger today, or maybe I shouldn't have that drink tonight. You know what I mean? I'm gonna skip tonight, right? Tomorrow, every day's a battle. We all have our own, whatever that battle may be. You win those little battles, and as soon as you win that battle, celebrate it. Like, you know what I mean? You feel good about it, right? Like, I did it, right? I did it. You look at yourself. I did it. Celebrate it. It doesn't mean you have to have a party, but I mean, celebrate it within yourself. Like, yeah, oh, I can do this, right? So then whenever you look at yourself in the mirror the next day, you're like, yeah, I did it. So guess what? And now I'm going to move on. I'm going to get, my goals are going to get more and more and more. And it's just the little things. But I believe that closing the door on closing that chapter sometimes is so important. And a lot of us don't want to close that chapter because we are so used to living in that fear and the regrets, and we're scared because of the person who we may have been for a time period, or the things that we may have did that we think dictate us that really don't dictate us. There's so much more, so much more.
Yeah, we hold on to our past and let that dictate who we are today. It's going to be really hard to find out who you're going to be tomorrow.
Well, you're going to be that same person tomorrow that's holding on to the past.
Right.
And that's the thing
Mhm.
about it, is you can't make that change if you hold on to it. If
Somebody
you
used
let those external fears of the past
Mhm.
take over your mind, it's huge.
is you have to let it go to let the new stuff in, right? There was
Yeah.
a friend of ours who had a beach ball analogy that's still stuck in my head. Is you have a whole bunch of beach balls that's life, and you're carrying them all, but somebody else throws another one at you. You can't catch it because you don't have enough space left to catch that beach ball. If you let go of one of those beach balls that no longer serves you, like your past, unless you're going to use it as motivation, but it's not going to determine who you are, then you create space to catch the next beach ball. And then you get to have the experience that that beach ball is going to give you. If we don't let go of that stuff, we're never going to be able to experience what the new stuff is going to give us. And it's going to be a gift. It's going to give you something. It's going to give you a lesson. It might slap you in the face every once in a while because you could get complacent like I did. But it's allowing the new experience to show up.
Yeah, it is. It is. You have to let go. And it doesn't mean that you have to forget, right?
Oh,
Letting go and
no.
forgetting are two
No.
different things.
Mm-hmm.
But 100%, like that whole beach ball analogy, that's pretty cool. I haven't heard that one before, but you're opening up the door to new opportunities and new, absolutely, because we never know, whenever you stop believing those things about you that aren't true and they're not who you are,
Mm-hmm.
the opportunities and the things that just happen in your life are unbelievable. The places you go, you have no idea you could ever go. It's just unbelievable.
The one thing you said about shutting the door, I really like that. My former self, when I decided to close that door, I kicked that fucking door shut and it won't ever open again. A lot of people have a hard time shutting that door. It's uncomfortable. That's who we were. Now we have to begin the new us, the next chapter in our lives. And if, more men out there could just ask for help, learn how to close that door and go, everything's going to be okay. This is going to be uncomfortable. It's going to hurt. But like you were just saying, Jordan, the opportunities, they're far greater than keeping that door open. And another thing was, I don't regret what I did in the past. That made me who I am today.
100%.
There's a lot of mistakes, like you were saying, Jordan. A lot of
Mhm.
mistakes. I would not be who I am today without those mistakes, like you were saying. And you hear a lot of time people saying they regret them. I use those as motivation,
Mm-hmm.
not to make those mistakes again.
That's a form of loving yourself right there. That's a
Mhm.
huge form of loving yourself. I wouldn't change a dang thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that would have been nice had I not done. Years at a time, there was rough patches that I could have been easily avoided. But as you said, I wouldn't change one thing about my life because it made me who I am today, and made me to where I can overcome so many more things than had I not gone down those paths. And it also made me an example to be able to help other people. And I absolutely love who I am today because of the fact that I can take those experiences and those things that happened to me, and I know I can move on from them, and I have moved on from them but I know that I can use them to my benefit. You know, remember, closed but not forgotten. So, if there's any thoughts that come in there, and one of the biggest things, I know I keep saying it, but is fact or fiction. We all have intrusive thoughts. If you're just starting and you're a man out there and you're just starting and you have those intrusive thoughts about, so say, regrets, or so say things that you wish you did or the past, fact or fiction, you recognize those thoughts. And that's one of the hugest things for me, is recognizing the intrusive thought. And if you can learn to capture that intrusive thought on its way in, not dwell on memories and dwell on thoughts of future fears, but if you can capture that thought as it's entering your brain, and you recognize the fact that you're doing it, and if you start trying to do it, believe me, it comes quick. You're going to start having a thought, and then you're going to be like, oh no, I'm having one of those. And then instead of letting it overtake you, you overtake that thought, right? And we're like, okay, is that true? Should I have that fear about the future? No, because that intrusive thought is the only thing that's putting that seed that's going to breed those actions that'll make me do that, right? Because that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to I always say compartmentalize it, but I'm
Separate it. Yep.
right? Because I can't throw it away because it's going to be back.
It'll be back. Yeah.
Those thoughts just don't want to go away sometimes. So it may keep coming back, but I'm going to recognize it and I'm like, okay, nope. And I'm going to replace it with something I did positive. And if you do that, just starting out, it will change your life. Make a couple promises. Say, hey, I'm going to go to the gym twice a week. I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. I'm going to just be a little bit more cautious about what I eat. Try not to eat so many processed foods or whatever it is, right? Whatever you're struggling with. Make a little promise to yourself and then hold yourself to it and start with just one. Be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to exercise. Whether I'm going to go on a walk around the neighborhood for 30 minutes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it 3 times a week. Keep that to yourself and then slowly increase it and then add another thing, right? But starting out, start with a promise to yourself. Keep those promises so that you start to trust yourself, so you start to love yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror every day and think about the things that you're thankful for and the things that you've done right. And then whenever you have those intrusive thoughts, recognize them and try to push them out, right? Don't just sit there. Do not allow yourself to sit there and come up with these like literally daydreams about what's happened or what could happen and stuff. Recognize them and replace it with, nope, I'm getting ready to do this today, or go do something. Whenever you have that thought, it's funny. I used to do push-ups. Whenever I had a bad thought, I would because I just wanted it to go away and I couldn't figure out a way to go away and I hated doing push-ups. So I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to do 15 push-ups, 10 push-ups when I have that thought. Every time I tell you what, pretty soon those thoughts don't come in anymore because your body's like, I'm not taking it.
It's like, screw that. Screw that. Your subconscious is like, I'm not even going to deliver this one. Right?
Yeah. Anybody can find their own thing that they do. It doesn't have to be, exercise related or anything, but just noticing that thought and throwing it away. So my number one recommendation is that if you're just starting and you're in the depths and you're in the shallows, are those things. Make a promise to yourself, start to keep it. Start adding those promises. Keep those promises to yourself. Start to trust yourself. Talk positive to yourself. Figure out what you're grateful for. And then the last thing is going to be the thoughts, controlling your thoughts. And it doesn't come easy, but it's recognizing them. That it's just like the keeping the promises. Once you start recognizing them and you start making those promises, everything's going to trickle out. And then if you can get that technique and that habit of recognizing your thoughts, the power that's going to be within you is unbelievable, because you take all that negativity out of your life. Woo, boy.
Oh, you feel so much more powerful. You feel so much more. You feel like you can freaking near do anything that you put your mind to, right? You life is always going to throw curveballs and ask you how much you want it. It's just going to show up that way. But yeah, so I'm going to circle back a little bit because I want to put a little bit of facts behind the exercise thing that you were talking about, Jordan. I'm lucky enough that I get to have one screen that I can look at you guys on, one screen over here that I can pull up and do some Googling and get some information while you're talking. But the study is, when it comes to anxiety and depression, medical news today is exercise is 1.5 more times effective at reducing mild to moderate symptoms of depression and psychological stress and anxiety than medication or CBT therapy, according to the study. What that's saying is you can take some pills and it will be mildly effective if they get it right. Or you can figure out a way to get some exercise into your life, and it's going to be 1.5 more times effective at helping you feel better about you than
Absolutely.
taking the pill will.
And CBT, that's cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yep.
So it's like counseling and stuff.
Yep.
Which if anybody feels like going to counseling, I strongly recommend it. I mean, there's huge techniques that you can pull from counseling as well.
Yep.
You know, as men, we're scared to go to counseling. I did some counseling, and I tell you what, that's where I got the finding my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that didn't come to me just on my own. I didn't come up with that by no means, right? I had help getting there with that one, but it's probably the most powerful part of the counseling for me because I'm not I never was the, you know, oh, I'm going to go get help type of guy. So that was one thing that really stuck with me. But it's crazy, man, because here's the thing is you get that exercise. What are we doing? We're getting
Keeping a
healthy.
promise to yourself.
We're keeping a promise to yourself, but you're getting healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
why should we not be healthy? Right? If we want to live our best lives and be the best that we can, feel the best, how do you do that? You do that by being healthy. You can't do that and then being unhealthy.
So, my own personal example, I hadn't started even thinking about exercising until last summer-ish is when I started actually putting effort into my physical well-being. I hadn't really, and I had only really dabbled in it. I hadn't taken it very seriously. And I only really started taking it seriously until I joined CrossFit at the end of January this year. And I will tell you, I go 3 to 4 times a week. And I'll tell you right now that after 4 months, I can tell my mental resilience is better than it was before. I'm happier than I was when I started. I'm more positive now than I was when I started. I believe in myself more than I was when I started. I think the list goes on. One of the things you talked about too, Jordan, when I'm going to circle back even farther about being not being the smartest guy in the room, and if you are, you're in the wrong room. When you show up to places where people are in a state of personal growth, and you show up with a willingness to have your own personal growth, I'm learning still that these people don't want you to fail. These people are proud of you for showing up. These people are proud of you for making an attempt. These people are proud of you for trying. I'm not used to that. It's been a really long time since I've been able to see this over an elongated period of time that it's starting to rewrite the message in my own mind. And at CrossFit, I am not the best person in the room by far. I get my ass handed to me by everybody else on a regular basis. It doesn't stop me from trying, but it gives me something to look up to and look forward to. At the BNI meeting, sitting next to a whole bunch of people that are successful and working toward success and supporting each other was a really, really cool experience that you can see the connection between the people because they all want better for themselves and each other. And it's a lesson in giving that's really cool to watch. I'll finish a workout and think I sucked and people blew me out of the water and they'll be like, "Nice work, man. Good job." And the first thing that wants to come out of my mouth was like, "Fuck, you kicked my ass." But I don't say it over and over and over and over again. I show up and you get the good workout. Nice workout there. the message starts to change in your mind and you start to believe it even when you don't. Even when your mind doesn't want to accept the things you know are good for you.
Absolutely. I mean, I always, and I always think, the most impressive person I see at the gym isn't the biggest, most cut, most swole person. It's the person who hasn't been in the gym and it's their first or second day, and you can tell it's like, damn, all right, that's awesome. That's awesome to see. And like you said, you may be the last person. Everybody may be kicking your ass at the CrossFit, but you know what? They were all there at one point. Everybody
Hmm.
starts somewhere, and it's the coolest and the most surreal thing to see somebody coming from a starting point because it's the hardest. Because everything in you is telling you, "Oh my gosh, I'm not going to fit in there. Oh my gosh, everybody's gonna be looking at me," and you think that everybody's side eyeing you or giving you weird looks, but
Yep.
really, you don't know what's going through somebody's head. I can tell
Not
you
at
right
all.
now, every time I see somebody, I'm like, man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Like, and you're gonna, I hate to say it, but like, you're gonna have more cheerleaders than anything, right? Because everybody's gonna have your back on it.
Yeah, you're not even wrong. Like
People want
it's,
to see people do good, and
yeah, they
especially
do.
coming from
It's really cool.
super, even if you're really out of shape, everybody's been there to get to where they're at now, and you have the most growth that can
Mhm.
be that can be captured. Somebody who's already in really good shape doesn't have as high of a threshold of growth that they can get to as somebody who's just coming in and can get to that point. And it's hard, and we all know it's hard. And so it's amazing to see people taking that first step. And I'm always, I just think it's the most beautiful thing to see somebody go in there and you see, when man or woman, you see the confidence coming in their face 2 3 weeks later, 2 months later, they're walking around like they've been doing this for 10 years, and it's like, all right, look at you. make sure make sure you keep that when you go home and you walk out of here too, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I remember when you came in here and you were kind of hunting over, hiding behind the machine, trying to grab the machine. Now you're in there and you got a little cutoff shirt going, looking at your, I mean, it's an amazing thing to see the growth in people and the confidence that it prevails to them.
Got anything else, Robbie?
No, I'm really enjoyed this conversation. It's I always say this, but I always learn something new every time we sit down and talk. Uh, Hearing other people's opinions, sitting down with other men, and the biggest thing I always take away is we're not alone.
Yeah.
Every man we've had on here, we're not alone. We all have our struggles. We all have our thing. We are not alone. And, like we always say, you don't have to suffer in silence. And we're, what is it, 16 or 17 in? And I'm always excited to have these. I always learn something new. And I know I'll continue to learn stuff new. And, it was when you guys were opening, talking about networking. Every time a new guest comes on here, it's another network, another person I can put in my pocket if I ever need anything. Another man knowing to go into battle with me. And I haven't had that much in my life. I have them here and there, but I know more and more that I got more men in my pocket that are right there to fight with me in this battle.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Some of the connections we've made already. Um, Jordan, I want to give you an opportunity to tell us what your business is and what you do and why you do it, and um, give everyone of our listeners a chance to like sell yourself, bud. Sell like
Some of my,
seriously.
no, I'm just kidding.
Uh, um, I mean that. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. You run your own business. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. So I own a water purification company, and we deal with whole home water purification and softening. Doesn't require salt. So main goal, kind of what my passion is behind this is, I want to be healthy. I want to be the best person that I can be for my family, but I also want to be the best person for my community and the people around me, the men around me, just all the people that I can do. And water is a huge thing that people don't know about. If you have city water, no matter where you're located, if your water is treated with chlorine, you have byproducts, and those byproducts are haloacidic acids, trihalomethanes. There's multiple things in the water. Those are all carcinogens, just so you know. So the chlorine may not be the carcinogen, but the byproducts of the chlorine mixing with the natural forming compounds in the water creates these carcinogens. And I always go to environmental work group, EWG tap water database online can show you exactly what's in your water. They do a in-depth water test once a year, and they can show you how many times over the limit of the carcinogens are in the water. So the more that I started to learn about these things, and I learned, cancer scientists believe trihalomethanes are responsible for the majority of human cancer in the U.S. Well, there's 262 times the recommended amount of trihalomethanes in my water. What's that doing to me? Skin's the largest organ. I'm showering in this. I'm drinking it. I'm giving it to my dog. I'm giving it to my kids. I'm giving it to everybody, right? And we're using it for everything. So the goal of my company and our goal is to make people healthier, one household at a time. With our product and our system, what we do is we come out, we install a whole home water filter. We also remove the calcification from the water, so we soften it a little bit, and we soften it, and then we ionize it as well before it comes into your house. It's an 8-stage system, very unlike any system you're going to see anywhere. Very highly efficient. Lasts about 12 years before we have to replace the media that's inside. So there's no filters to change. There's no salt to add. Your whole house is protected, and you're not just protected. Don't get me wrong. I don't think RO water is bad. RO water is great, but it's only under the sink, and you're only drinking it. What about when I shower? What about the other faucets? So what we do is we protect the whole house, keep your whole family safe without having the maintenance, without having the hassle. And we do free water tests, man. We come out and we do a free water test. We show you what's in the water. We do water tests after we install. We show you that all those things are gone. We go down to a 0.2 submicron. So we go down 500 times smaller than the width of a human hair. And I would show you what that looks like, but I don't have any. So
I'm losing mine. Mine's got the Great Migration going.
Yeah. So, our whole goal is keeping families healthy, keeping families safe. And we're very, very becoming very, very popular right now because of the fact that we are removing so many contaminants. We have 8 different stages and multiple different medias in ours. It's not just a carbon. It's not just a single stage carbon filter like your fridge for your whole house. It's not just going to remove the chlorine. We're removing the chlorine, removing the haloacidic acids, removing the trihalomethanes, removing pesticides, removing organics. We're removing so many things that are in the water that people don't know is in our water. And it is becoming more and more popular. Don't get me wrong. You're going to you see headlines. I think in the next 5 years, it's going to be a known thing that everybody should have a water filter in their house that removes all of these things. And so I feel blessed because we're kind of ahead of the curve here. And I just think it's amazing. So, we come out, do free water tests. We don't pressure anybody. If it's right for you and your family and we can help you, that's amazing. If it's not, that's okay. You can let us know when it is the right time. So, whenever it comes down to this, we're a local company. We have amazing financing. And, we want to build relationships. So it's not just about the sales of the product. We are a local company. And what we do, we want to leave the best community impact as possible.
Tell us how anyone who ends up listening to this and gets this far, how they can contact you.
Absolutely. So easiest way to contact me is to give me a call or shoot me a text. Honestly, if you want a free water test, you want to talk about our water filtration system, how it works, you want to go through things, 970-773-6439. That is our business line. And then, also, we have a www.smartlivingw.com is our website. It's currently getting ready to be redone as we speak. So it's kind of in a process of a transition. You can still find some information on there, phone numbers and whatnot, addresses. But yeah, best way to get a hold of me is just give me a shout, shoot me a text, give me a call, or you can email me at smartlivingw@gmail.com.
We will put your email address in the show notes if
Okay.
anybody is interested in learning more. For us here at Forged in Silence, and Robbie, you finished it off pretty good in your last comments, was about men suffering in silence and being alone. And I really loved how our conversation today started out as keeping promises to yourself and really focused on self-love, what that means, what that means to us, and some examples of what that looks like in our lives. I think it's important to share with other men some of the things that worked for us, even though they're all fairly similar. When you hear something repeated over and over again, it definitely has, you're going to have to look at it and be like, okay, wow, this must have some value, because it's worked for 3 guys. And I mean, like making our bed, something as simple as that. When you get out of bed, it has an impact. It sounds so small and seems so ridiculous, but it's had an incredible impact over the past like 2.5 years where I've done it. It just becomes something I do, which is pretty cool. There's men out there. It's June. It's Men's Mental Health Month, and there is a lot on social media going around in support for men, which I absolutely love seeing. Here at Forged in Silence, it is Men's Mental Health Day every day of the year. And Jordan, I want to say thank you for sharing everything that you've shared with us today, your personal experience, how important it is to you, how it's affected you in your life. If there's any men out there that want to know what we did to try and change our lives for the better, you are welcome to reach out to any 3 of us. We're available. We're around. We love to see other men grow and other men thrive. And we're willing to support you in that. So if you need someone to talk to, if you want to get out of your rut, there's men around. There's lots of men around. It's taken me a while to find them, but I've had to put myself out there to be found and to be seen. So I'll leave with that. Robbie, till next episode, thank you to our listeners today and everyone who's watched the live. Jordan, appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on. And, just like you guys said, the Arsenal, you have all these men that have came on here. I am always available for you guys anytime you need it, and then I'll have you go ahead and drop my Facebook link down in the bios or in the thing as well. And if anybody's out there and they, you're just starting out, or you need the motivation, you're just getting going, we can talk. I have no problem with somebody getting a hold of me on Facebook, and if there's any guys out there struggling that want just to talk, then like, hey, where do I start? Or hey, I did this. Reach out to us. We love
right
that.
on.
So that's what we're here for.
Exactly. Okay.
All right.
Till the next
Appreciate you guys.
episode. Appreciate you guys.
Yep.
I'm pressing wrong buttons. I need to press stop, and I'm like, why am I clicking on leave studio? That's a horrible way to exit anything. Anyways, you can keep this in the episode.
Oh, I will.
I know you will.
Blooper.